Your knowledge of contract language is imperative.
You must know what a violation looks like if you wish to be active in its cessation.
It is important to understand that being active and knowledgeable affects your overall bargaining strength.
Together, we can forge a more militant NALC.
Good morning and welcome back to Parcels and Knowledge, the podcast dedicated to delivering knowledge to the city letter carrier with your host, the Roseville Wrecking Ball, on grievance number 451. I have been getting a request to talk about injury-related and OWCP episodes from a few different people over the last few months. Today will be that episode, to the best of my ability, and I will cover the basics today. Nothing too in-depth, but it will be a reasonable understanding of your rights once you have an injury on the job. I'm not a guru of OWCP knowledge, but I got a lot of this information from 2184's Joe Glonka, and also used some articles from Branch 6000. I also checked with others to ensure this information is accurate. So without further ado, I will try to cover the basics that any carrier should understand if they find themselves injured on the job. What happens as soon as a carrier gets injured? Management conducts a fact-finding expedition in order to determine why it was the carrier's fault they were injured. They usually look for what shoes you are wearing, even though it has nothing to do with what's going on. They will likely try and conduct an interview. Just know that this interview or any other fact-finding cannot interfere with your right to seek medical care. They cannot delay your medical care in any way. If you ever get injured and need medical care, kindly tell them that you would love to participate in their interview, but that you would prefer to seek medical care first. If they refuse, ask to see a steward right away. Foremost, among those laws and regulations, is the requirement to let injured workers know of their right to choose the doctor who will treat them. Some postal facilities have postal physicians or contract clinics and will take an injured worker for an initial examination. While the Postal Service has the right to take an injured worker to be examined, the injured worker has the right to refuse treatment. Along with advising you of your rights to choose a doctor, federal regulations require that the Postal Service issue a Form CA-16 within 4 hours of reporting the injury. The CA-16 is a payment voucher that pays all medical benefits for up to 60 days. Form CA-16 must contain the full name and address of the qualified physician or qualified medical facility authorized to provide service. Just make sure that the doctor that you choose is an OWCP doctor. The authorizing official must sign and date the form and must state his or her title. Form CA-16 authorizes treatment for 60 days from the date of injury, unless OWCP terminates the authorization sooner. A CA-16 should not be issued for an examination by a postal physician or contract clinic unless the injured worker agrees to be treated by them. For most injuries, it's best that the injured worker, not the Postal Service, choose the treating doctor. After all, who has your best interests at heart? Your doctor or a facility being paid by the Postal Service? Employee Labor Relations Manual, ELM, Section 545.21, clearly requires that the Postal Service promptly authorize medical treatment by issuing the employee a properly executed Form CA-16 within 4 hours of the claimed injury. The Postal Service is not required to issue a Form CA-16 more than 1 week after the occurrence of the claimed injury, so the form must be requested immediately. In addition to providing payment for initial medical treatment, the doctor designated on a Form CA-16 may refer the injured worker for further examination, testing, or medical care. OWCP will pay this physician or facility's bill on the authority of a Form CA-16, and the Postal Service should not issue a second Form CA-16. In some instances, postal officials may claim the CA-16 isn't used anymore. That is a violation of the contract, and a grievance should be initiated immediately. Your choice of doctor is critical to your claim. If you do not have a regular physician, you may be forced to seek treatment at one of the many urgent care clinics that have popped up nationwide. Many urgent care clinics employ physician assistants to diagnose and treat patients. While PAs can provide quality health care, the OWCP requires medical evidence from a doctor and will not consider the PA's medical report. However, a medical report from a PA or nurse practitioner will be valid if a doctor co-signs the report. What is a qualified physician? By statute, the term physician includes surgeons, podiatrists, dentists, clinical psychologists, optometrists, osteopathic practitioners, and chiropractors within the scope of their practice as defined by state law. Nurse practitioners and physician assistants are not considered qualified physicians under FECA unless the medical report is countersigned by a physician. Also, under FECA, a physician includes chiropractors only if there is a diagnosed spinal subluxation and is demonstrated by X-ray. Lastly, note that medical evidence must contain a valid medical diagnosis. A finding of pain alone is not sufficient since pain is not a valid diagnosis. Rather, it is a symptom. Due to the nature of our work, letter carriers are best served by getting treatment from a board-certified orthopedic surgeon. OWCP gives greater weight to the opinion of an orthopedic surgeon than that of a family practitioner. Choosing the doctor who treats your work-related injury may be the most important decision in the life of your claim, so choose wisely. Postal Service employees that sustain job-related traumatic injuries are protected by the provisions of the FECA, Federal Employees Compensation Act. A traumatic injury by definition occurs with a single incident, or in some instances, a medical condition that occurs or develops within a single day's tour of work. Common examples are slip, trip, and fall injuries and dog bites. Such injuries are reported by utilizing the United States Department of Labor Office of Worker Compensation Programs, Form CA-1, which includes the provisions of continuation of pay. Although regulations pertaining to the FECA are applicable to Postal Service as well as other non-military federal employees, an amendment to a separate law, the Postal Accountability and Enhancement Act of 2006, imposed a 3-day waiting period for continuation of pay that applies only to injured USPS employees. As soon as possible after sustaining a job-related traumatic injury, a letter carrier should go to OWCP's eComp portal online and complete a OWCP Form CA-1. While doing so, they should always check continuation of pay on line 15. If unable to work because of the injury, the carrier should also provide medical documentation in order to have the regular postal pay continued for a period of up to 45 calendar days from the date that work loss begins. For the first 3 calendar days after the injury, an employee has the option of using sick leave, annual leave, or leave without pay, or any combination thereof. This is the waiting period imposed by the Postal Accountability and Enhancement Act. Beginning on day 4, after work loss begins, management is required to continue the employee's regular pay, not using their leave for up to 45 calendar days. This is continuation of pay. This is not loss of pay, then give you your continuation back. It's a grievance if you get a loss of pay. Sometimes management won't put in your continuation pay on time. Make sure to talk to a steward if they don't. If the period of work loss due to injury exceeds 14 days, the first 3 days can be changed to COP, and any sick or annual leave previously used during that period should be restored to the employee's balances. Although it can be argued that management should automatically make this pay adjustment without being prompted to by the injured employee or union, management seldom ever does this right thing. Thus, it is advisable to notify management both verbally and in writing of a request to convert the first 3 days to COP whenever this becomes appropriate. In this manner, the request is documented and, if necessary, can be used in a grievance to show that management was made aware. When you go to OWCP's eComp portal, if you haven't done so already, you must register to create an account first. This portal gives the claimant control of their claim. and allows OWCP to communicate directly with the carrier. On this portal, you will be able to file claim forms, file compensation forms, track the status of forms or documents, electronically upload and submit documents to existing claim files, submit a query regarding unresolved issues. Once you file your CA1, I encourage you to check your eComp dashboard daily to ensure timely response to correspondence from OWCP. There are two different kinds of injuries you can file for: traumatic injuries, which are filed under Form CA1, and basic/extended occupational diseases, which are filed under CA2. Some examples for those injuries which are filed under a CA1 are back strains, sprained knees or ankles, torn muscles, and a rotator cuff tears. Those injuries which had been immediate. Examples of a CA2 type injury are carpal tunnel syndrome, orthopedic strains caused by repetitive trauma, tarsal tunnel and plantar fasciitis, and acceleration of osteoarthritis. Those injuries which have been caused over time. A CA2 is similar to a CA1, but is more detailed. For CA1s, they must be filed within 3 years of the injury, and to be eligible for COP, continuation of pay, they must be filed within 30 days of the injury, begin losing time within 45 days of the injury, and you must provide medical evidence of disability within 10 days. For CA2s, they must be filed within 3 years of the last exposure, and you will not be granted continuation of pay. For either claim, you will be using a CA7 for wage loss compensation for any time not covered by COP. Just know that COP only covers the first 45 days. Finally, I'll go over a question and answer of many different questions I have heard before. What if I can actually perform my job in a limited duty fashion but management refused to allow it? In cases where the injured letter carrier can perform limited duty, but the service has refused to offer limited duty, the carrier and the union should document this refusal with written correspondence and grievances. What do I look for when requesting a physician's opinion? Opinions containing unclear or vague language can be characterized as equivocal, speculative, or conjectural. Terms such as could, may, or might be indicate speculation and or equivocation and are assigned less probative value than positively expressed medical opinions. The term probably is considered less speculative than the above terms and therefore has greater probative value. The doctor will have to provide an opinion that he or she believes the injuries were caused by the described work factors with a reasonable degree of medical certainty. Once my OWCP claim gets accepted, does that mean I am automatically entitled to wage loss compensation? To the contrary, there is a misconception that once your claim is accepted, you're automatically entitled to wage loss compensation. This is not so. Whenever OWCP initially accepts a CA1 or a CA2, it accepts the claim for medical benefits only. Anytime our injured carriers are missing work because of their injuries, both before and after their claims have been accepted, they should obtain periodic medical reports from their attending physicians to support claims for wage loss compensation. CA17s will not normally suffice for the approval of wage loss compensation. What is required according to FECA Procedural Manual Section 2.0901.5.A.2 is A. To be eligible for compensation, the medical evidence should support the claimant is disabled as a result of the accepted work injury. The evidence should either establish that the claimant is precluded from performing any type of work or that the claimant has work restrictions due to the injury that the agency is not able to accommodate. B. To be eligible for compensation for lost time for work due to a medical examination or treatment, the medical evidence should establish that the claimant attended an examination or treatment for the accepted work injury on the dates claimed. Additionally, Medical reports should be written ideally soon after the exam, and the medical evidence must be based on objective clinical findings. The attending physician should explain how the carrier, based on objective clinical findings, is unable to perform their regular duties. It is only common sense that pain is what disables us. The attending physician, however, should focus on the disability caused by the pain and correlate it with the accepted conditions and to objective clinical findings. Here is an example of that. My patient has not been able to stand or walk since 10/1/2025 due to the accepted bone-on-bone arthritis in her knees, documented by the MRI performed on 9/28/2025. Can the Postal Service challenge my OWCP claim? Yes, but they cannot refuse to complete and process any paperwork. What are the requirements of every claim? Must file within the given timelines. Must be a civil employee, which all letter carriers are civil employees. Injury must be substantiated but not necessarily witnessed. Medical diagnosis from physician must be present. Injury arose in the course of employment, incidental to employment, and arises out of employment, related to actual duties, not administrative matters. Emotional stress claims are often denied for this reason, and medical evidence must state diagnosis is causally related to employment, rationale required in complex cases. And for the final question, I was injured while delivering mail, and my supervisor told me that I officially reported the injury, then I would be disciplined. What should I do? Ignore the supervisor and immediately report the injury by requesting and completing OWCP Form CA1, Notice of Traumatic Injury and Claim Compensation, and then seek medical treatment for the injury if needed. Additionally, see your steward as soon as possible and provide a detailed statement about what the supervisor had said. The supervisor's misconduct in this matter constitutes a very serious violation of law, of federal law, specifically the Federal Employees Compensation Act, FECA, Title 5, Part 81 of the United States Code. Additionally, such obstructive behavior violates the United States Department of Labor Office of Workers' Compensation regulations for administering the FECA, specifically Code of Federal Regulations, Title 20, Part 10.16. Threats of disciplinary retaliation or any form of similar management misconduct also violate the Postal Service's own regulations pertaining to employee injuries in the Employee and Labor Relations Manual, Section 542.33. It is improper to attempt to coerce, intimidate, or obstruct in any manner an employee's right to file an injury compensation claim or to obstruct, interfere with, or delay reports required in connection with reported employee injuries. However, management in some offices still utilizes tactics of intimidation and obstruction in an attempt to prevent injuries from being reported and letter carrier benefits under the FECA from being utilized. One of the most common of these tactics is the issuance of phony discipline, which also serves as thinly veiled attempt to intimidate other letter carriers into not reporting on-the-job injuries. Again, always report any job-related injury on OWCP Form CA1 as soon as possible after it occurs, even if medical care is not initially sought or thought to be necessary. Postal Service management does have a long and sordid history of issuing bogus and blatantly retaliatory discipline to letter carriers that have been reporting job-related injuries. And the NALC has a long and very successful history of consistently overturning such phony disciplinary actions. Never let a management threat of disciplinary action dissuade you from utilizing all of your contractual and legal rights when injured on the job. If retaliatory discipline is issued, immediately request to see your steward to initiate a grievance. Now this does it for the OWCP basics. Hopefully those people who were requesting it got everything that they needed. And I'll be doing one a little bit more detailed on certain things later on. It's not going to be high on the list, though, so if you guys want it to be high on the list, make sure you let me know. And follow me on the Facebook. It's Parcels of Knowledge. Just search that up on Facebook. Hopefully, you learned something valuable today. And as always, have a good day.
Out to the Roseville Wrecking Ball. He is an Article 8 scholar, and thank God, we need Article 8 scholars right now. The grievance genius and the Roseville Wrecking Ball doing amazing work.
Brothers and sisters, this guy is good, man. He's fucking good.
And my boy Joshua, he killed it. Man, he's lockstep right now. He's killing it.